All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Adam Holt, your host, speaking to you from AdviceTech.LIVE, day number 2. Unbelievable, we made it past day 1 unscathed. So hopefully you had an opportunity to participate. I'm going to do a little bit of a run through on what we're talking about today because we've got a jam-packed agenda and we've got great resources. Hopefully you're going to pay plenty of attention. And I'm going to share with you actually some of the things that we talked about yesterday by sharing my screen here. And then I'm going to bring my esteemed guests on. So let's just kind of do a little bit of a recap of yesterday. If you missed any of it, remember, you can go back to this platform and you can see all of the recordings. You'll remember that this year's theme is really elevating the human advisor experience through the technology and the themes that you will continue to see. And we've asked all of the presenters to talk about this is how are you actually elevating the human advice. As a recovering financial planner myself for 25 years, I'm very deeply passionate about this industry. And we want to make sure that the tech that we're all building is actually serving you in the field and elevating that game, not just elevating the tech. One of the questions that we had that came up is we want to ask you, and if you go to the check over there on the polls, we're going to put up a poll there right now. It's which is basically which of the following is currently the top priority for a majority of your clients, because there's such a diverse set of individuals here representing wealth management. And we really wanted to catalog some of what you guys are seeing as the bigger priority so that we can be prepared as the fintech builders of the future to help meet those needs. All right, let's talk about what we did yesterday while you're doing this. If you didn't get a chance, you can certainly go back and listen to Brian and also Nasir. We talked about our benefactor partner and Philly Financial, who is benefiting from this event. Remember, all of the proceeds that all the fintechs put in to run this event, if we have any left over, it goes to charity. And we've chosen Philadelphia Financial Literacy to help focus locally on how we can help our communities get more financially literate. And Nasir is running the charge there. So definitely get involved in that if that's of interest to you. Brian talked to us about the elevation of behavioral finance and the awareness that a lot of financials don't have about this whole category. So he put in some resources there. You just got to go check that program out and listen to it again. He'll give you some great resources for free that he made available to everybody there. If you got to see my sessions, there were some snafus on this, and we're actually working on getting the recordings back up this. But one of the things that was really critical is I talked about the generational wealth transfer. Many of us are talking about where that money is moving from the boomer population to ex-gen millennials, and that massive transfer is going to create an amazing opportunity to not only retool, but also challenge the status quo of how we do business. And the poll I'd love you to check out right now on the left here is, how are you taking advantage of the great wealth transfer? Just select all that apply there and just give us some feedback of how you're approaching this, because whether you're doing intergenerational planning or family meetings, or you're trying to do financial planning for multi-gen, we'd really love to know how you're trying to do this. Some people are actually going into disparate areas or bringing in legal and tax into their firms. Some are partnering. We really want to know what you're doing. So take a moment to do that. Hopefully, by this time, you've had a chance to see some of our other partners. There were 2 sessions that were done yesterday that Allison hosted. These were great at showing speed fintech demos. If you didn't get a chance to see some of these companies, you can go back. I'd also encourage you to vote for them, because they're all up against each other for who wins the awards of Best in Show and effectively some other awards this year in ATL. And this panel was great if you're an RIA thinking about on a scale level, what are you trying to build, right? Are you building for a highly digital nimble firm like what Tyrone is building, or are you building for a massive firm with 100 advisors like Jamie and Carson and Aaron has at Carson? So hopefully some great insights you'll take from there. And then lastly, we finished with some of our friends at Nitrogen, Redtail, FMG, State Guru, and Pathfinder. Really great sessions. You got to check them out. All right, so that's what we did yesterday. Again, go back and check them out. Here we are today. I get to spend time with my friends, and Kristen diligently showed up on time. So thank you, Kristen, for being here. Craig is lost in the ethos of probably doing some kind of consult, but if he's in trouble, our hearts out to you. So let's invite Kirsten. There she is. Hi, Kristen. Good to see you.
Hello, so glad to be here.
Fantastic. Now, for those of you that don't know Kristen, when we thought about this panel specifically, we wanted to help you in the field, advisors, think about this massive tech that we're all showing you, saying, how do I actually implement this? And the first names that came to mind when I thought about, well, who would be the best to talk about this, who's actually doing this in the real world, is Kristen and Craig. So Kristen, thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. Help us get to know you. What are you working on at RIA Oasis?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And seeing all of those fintechs that you're demoing yesterday and today, I work with all of them. I implement them. Some of them, people on the ground are some of my dear friends in the industry. So I think you're highlighting a lot of legacy and new tech that has been amazing within the industry. So what do I do? What am I working on? I am a tech implementer. I am a workflow expert, and I am a tech stack assessor. Big words, big consultant words. We use that a lot, right? So let's get down to the nitty gritty. I'm a Midwest girl, born and raised. You'll hear the accent as I continue to talk. And I have been working in this tech since before Al Gore invented the internet. So I've been using it for a really, really long time. Just to give you exposure, I work in all areas of tech, so CRM, portfolio management, financial planning, client experience, and then all the other quick win tools. So if you were to look at the Michael Kitce's map, which is our Bible of the industry, I work in probably 60 to 80 of those systems on a regular basis, which is why I'm kind of crazy in what I do. But I'm also interested to hear a little bit of the feedback from your attendees today, because I think everybody, RIAs and hybrids especially, they are struggling with, am I using the right tech? Is it fitting for the services that I'm providing? And the biggest question, Adam, what's everybody else doing? Because all these RIAs feel like they're on their own island, right? So that's a lot of the gaps that I help fill. And I also, besides working at RIA Oasis, I help other companies such as Ezra Group and Craig Iskowitz as a subject matter expert. So he's a dear friend of mine, and I'm glad that he's here today.
All right, he did join us, everybody. So welcome, Craig Iskowitz, to the program. We've just gotten into introduction. So Craig, as I was saying, obviously just an unbelievable force in the industry of helping firms make decisions on tech. Help us get to know what you're working on these days. What's the top of mind for you?
And a man who needs no introduction. Here I am. Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind words, Kristen. I'm really happy to be here. Again, with the AdviceTech.LIVE, one of my favorite events in the industry. So Ezra Group is a technology and operations consulting firm. We only do wealth and asset management. So we work with enterprise RIAs and broker dealers. We just make the tech stacks better. That's really our goal, is to help our clients grow and improve their capabilities. We spend a lot of time on evaluating how well tech stacks are operating, finding ways to optimize them, improve them. We do run a lot of vendor evaluations and software reviews, and enterprise software implementations is some of our biggest projects and most rewarding. We also have our own research. Over the years, we realized integrations don't work really very well, and then it's very opaque as to what does work and doesn't work. So we built our own research called the Wealth Tech Integration Score, which you can find at ezgroup.com.
Yeah, actually, that's a fantastic resource. I know that we're also involved in that and have some representation there. One of the companies that actually hear AdviceTech.LIVE you've already profiled in their integrations. One of the bigger things that comes up all the time. So let's ask this question of the community, and then I'll ask the same question to you. So on the left, you'll see there is a poll for all the participants. What is a core platform that the tech ideally should connect to? And I think it's part of a leading question. But while the community is answering that question, I'll ask our esteemed panelists here to give a perspective on, is that even the right question, Kristen, to be asking?
Yeah, I think it's really hard. I love the question because we want to look at RAs as a business and say what ideally works best. The challenge, Adam, nothing ideally works best. And I'm just going to be honest and transparent, as I always am. If everything ideally worked well, we wouldn't be having this amazing day with you, and Craig and I would not have businesses. Okay. So the challenge is that ideally is a word that works differently and is custom for every RIA. What advisors and planners expect for their connections and what seamlessly means to some firms is either a great win and success or a complete disappointment for firms, depending upon what expectations are and what their needs are, which is why standardized integrations or standardized data flows are really a struggle because everyone wants something different. So what do we do about that? Sometimes we have to build different processes around how data should flow. Sometimes we have to reimagine our data flow or our strategy of how our staff works with data in order to get it where it needs to go. And sometimes we need to just take a breath and say, this is the best it is right now. What else can we do? So there aren't always quick answers. There's not the easy button, which is why we're here. But I struggle with the word ideally, because ideally, every advisor wants every piece of data shoving into every single system they have, and it doesn't work that way. And that's what I get to do, is be the bearer of bad news and then try to go again at taking a stab at what the best effort is.
It's a great point. Craig, what do you think about this? Is there an ideal?
I wrote about this many years ago, that all these vendors are all fighting amongst themselves to be the integration hub. They all want their other applications at an RIA to integrate with them rather than the opposite, because the more applications integrate with your application, the harder it is to get rid of you, because you become the central focus and the central repository. There's a lot more to it. We argued about these questions before we put them out, and we don't want to get too detailed, but when we do integration analysis, we evaluate each application and each integration, and each application can have dozens or over 100 for some of the larger ones at integrations. We score each integration from a 0, that doesn't there, a 1 to a 4 or a 5. So just because you have an integration doesn't mean it's going to be what you need, or it's going to deliver the data that you're looking for. So we score a single sign-on as a 1, the lowest level. 2 is some sort of functional access, very limited. 3 is a unidirectional data transfer. 4 is bidirectional data transfer. And 5 is an embedded capability like a widget. So you can have any one of those and be considered an integration, but it may not suit your needs depending on what kind of data you're looking for, what other systems you're looking for, what the downstream access you're needing. So we really have a very granular way of identifying whether the integration is even working the way you want to or not.
Yeah, and Adam, if I can hang off of that really quick, I think Craig makes some really good points. What advisors and planners need to understand is that an integration is data sharing. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can then take click steps to take actions within these integrations. And that is a different level of integration. Example, I want my data from Orion, Tamarack, Black Diamond to show in my CRM. Great, but when you see those account values in there, those are just values to give you what I call a snapshot, a quick glance of the information of Jim and Jane's IRA and joint account. If I need to take action and place a trade within their account, that is an action that is done in Black Diamond, Orion, or Tamarack. And that is where you have multiple tabs open and there's no magic button here. So sometimes we have to talk about, is this an actionable item, or is it nice to see the information as I'm on the phone with the Smiths? That's where you have to start talking about your processes and your roles in your firm. What do we want to do with that information once it lands there? Just seeing it might not be enough. And that's sometimes where the challenges arise.
Yeah, gosh, we think about that all the time at Asset Map. We've been kind of very specific about what we've added. So obviously just basic things like single sign-on, as Craig said, that level 1, or bringing the data into Asset Map. But one of the things that we made very clear up front is that if I'm getting the insight from the data is one thing, but if I can't then go in and do anything about it, you've almost created a speed bump or a locked door. And that's why, as I showed yesterday, for those that paid attention, you can actually jump right into Black Diamond or Orion or Nitrogen, do the execution right from that environment. That's going to be really key. We're trying to push more customers and other fintechs to really give your special sauce utility inside of my environment, so I don't have to go into a completely different room. You know, it's interesting. The results of the panel or the poll that we just actually asked indicated that 7 out of 10 people said that that CRM should be the connecting bridge. And it's not surprising why Wealthbox and Redtail both here have well over 150 integrations. I think Redtail, Orion pushing 300 as the biggest just demand. I'm curious if is there an area of the space that is really waning or lacking? And that poll is also available to everybody who's attending. Who do you think we should be integrating more with? And that's a question for our panel. Craig, what do you think what's the area that has been least adopted in integration or needs the most help?
Well, those are a number of different questions. The area I think needs the most help is client portal. And one of the things that might be confusing is many of the people who are on now answering this poll may not know where their client portal comes from or who's providing it. So if you're an all-in-one vendor, if you're, for example, a Tamarack client or a Orion client, then they provide the portal. So of course it's integrated, it's their portal. It's all part of the same system. But if you're using eMoney as your portal, and then you've got another application, you've got Black Diamond as your portfolio management, and something else as your other tools, then that's going to have less of an integration because it's another system that has to pop over to. So there is a lot of confusion, and it's also, especially around client portal, there's too many. There's too many client portals out there. There's too many portals involved in general. If you have your eMoney portal, you also have your custodial portal. You may have another portal for portfolio management, another portal for insurance, and so on. So we're looking for the portal to end all portals that end all portals that would provide much more value for firms and make it much easier. Also, we've seen, I know Kristen's seen the same thing, where a client goes to their advisor's website and there's a number of logins. Click here if you want this data. And click here if you want this data. And sometimes there's a third one, click here if you want this data, which is not a great client experience.
Truly. What do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I completely agree. I believe the industry needs to do more work on data collection tools. We all know that Precise FP has taken a huge leap in doing data collection and integrating very well. They ended up, creating, and they still have so many great relationships and integration partners today. The challenge, and this is not the fault of Precise FP, to be honest, it's the fault of our industry, is the more we become financial planning based and wealth management based, the more data we're collecting. And unfortunately, we want to see all that data everywhere. I want to know their dog's name and their risk score and how long they lived in that house and what color the house was and how many children they have. So the data we're collecting is so valuable to us as financial planners, yet we don't know where to go with it and what to do with it. So Precise FP has done a great job. I would like to see more players in the game for data collection. I mean, let's be real. Some of us are going out to Typeform or SurveyMonkey. We're just trying to survey and get the data. It doesn't necessarily go anywhere, and it creates a lot of work for staff. But at least you've got the data. But we're looking for more industry-driven data collection that can then either kick off the financial planning experience or update that financial experience in a much larger way. Now, Adam, to you and Craig's point, there's a lot of portals out there that are trying to do that, but it's a competition for these RAs. So you have a great client portal, you have a great intake process, so do over 15 other platforms that are trying to be that forefront for advisors. It's not that they're not great, they are. It's a challenge for advisors and planners to decide which one is right for my client and which one gives me the most information for the best client experience, to Craig's point.
One area we'll see, well, so if I could throw out another great tool for onboarding would be something you may not have heard of called Asset Map. It's a great tool that does a lot of onboarding capabilities. People don't realize it's a hidden capability, I believe, if I could speak for Adam.
Yeah,
that it can do onboarding. It's sort of an on-ramp for financial planning because you do gather very similar information to Precise FP. But picking up on the financial planning part, we're seeing a lot more integrations, a lot more of the industry focusing on financial planning as an integrated part of the workflow. I mean, just look over the last 10 years, Fidelity bought eMoney, Envestnet bought Money Guide, AssetMark bought Voyant, Pershing invested in Conquest, right? So these are large firms spending big bucks on doing a better job of integrating financial planning into the advisor experience. So I expect to see a lot more smooth, seamless experience where you can open up accounts from inside your financial planning tool and not lose the context as you move between different applications.
And sorry, Adam, I'm gonna circle. I'm gonna fill that circle for us right now. That is why CRM and the interest in advisors wanting to connect their CRM has a comeback right now. I've been a CRM expert for over 25 years, and we see the ebb and flow and advisors wanting to use it, not wanting to use it, struggling with it, wanting to adopt it. It's because of financial planning. Why? Because we want to meet with our clients more often, or we want to make those meetings work in a sense of the value we're giving them. So we want to know more about them. We want to know the relationship. We want to document that relationship. And there's a little thing called the SEC that wants to make sure we've done all of that, right? And so it's that documentation place. And so as much as the CRM has always been there, it has been the flip phone of our being, right? We've all had a phone, but it is now becoming much more important. If you're financial planning and you're probably as an advisor planner right now going, oh, that makes sense. If you're heavy on financial planning and you're getting your client segmentation going with financial planning first, your CRM suddenly became a lot more important to you.
Very cool. No, this is all great to hear. Now, in the next few minutes, we've got about 7 minutes left together. I'd love to give your guidance to any advisor or firm that's on this program. Where should they start when thinking about either adding tech or rebuilding it from the ground up? What are the first kind of early questions or process that you would recommend that they go through? No, it's
The
like
first thing is call us.
Okay.
That's
That
a
takes
clear
like 2
first
minutes
step.
to find you.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Exactly. No, I would say you want to inventory everything you have. You want to know what applications you have and what the connections there are existing now. And a lot of firms, when we work with RAs of increasingly larger and larger size, and even the ones that are multiple billions, oftentimes don't have a full inventory of all the applications they have, all the data that's coming in, and all the integrations they're relying on. They have never looked through their workflows, gone through their processes, updated the documentation in many years. And once we do that with them, they find out, oh, I didn't even know you were involved in this. I didn't realize there's 3 more Excel spreadsheets that need to be updated manually to get this particular thing out the door. I didn't realize we're doing all this extra work to do a client meeting. That's really one of the first things you want to do is inventory what you have. So if you don't know what you have, you don't know what you're missing, what the gaps are.
Agreed with that.
I completely agree with that. I think with the inventory that Craig's talking about, because that's all we do is we first have to assess. It's nice to get a third-party assessment because, to be fair, the people who are paying for the tech rarely use it. Okay, they don't use it like everybody else in the office uses it, and they don't have a good perspective on how it could be used better. The larger you get, the more out of touch you are. Okay, just like I'm a mom, I have 2 kids in college. I do not know how many streaming services I pay for. I just have a credit card. Okay, I used to know how many, now I don't, and I'm okay with that, and I sleep really well that I subscribe to a lot of them. Okay, it happens as you get bigger, and it happens as you try to grow your business. So inventory is one thing, but I think it's really important to point your tech to why you're using it. And if you ask why you're using it, that tells you the segmentation. I hear advisors and planners say all the time, I can't believe I'm paying for XYZ. Well, it might be a tough bill to pay, but if it helps you with your high net worth clients, which is 5% of your business, you can't really get rid of it. But you also have to let go of the idea that this software is going to be used 90% of the time in your business. It's just not. So there's some truths we have to tell to ourselves about why we're using it, what gap it's filling, and then do the opposite. Look at the tech you're using and say, I wish I was using it more. We all know through all the surveys, well, whether it's, T3, whether it's Michael Kitcey's surveys, which are awesome, we're not using enough of what we're paying for. Some of that is because we get things in bundles. Everybody's giving us stuff we don't necessarily want, just like our cars or our cell phones. But what else could I be using? Or tell me why you're not. That will start to identify the need versus the want. And I've been doing this for years and years, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but stop bling shopping. Just because it's bling, stop buying it. It has to have a purpose. It has to have a client segment, and it has to have an output for you that brings value. So really identify that before you're subscribing, and really identify that with your operations people, with your boots on the ground people, not with the people who have the credit card paying for the tech.
Great points. Craig, you have thoughts?
So one area that I find a lot of firms lack is good lines of communication with their vendors. And that leads into supports what Kristen was just saying about not using the technology to the fullest capabilities. If you recommend at least once a year reaching out to your vendors, at least the key vendor applications, and having them come in and saying, here's how we're using your application. What could we be doing better? What other things do you have you released this year that we're not using? Let's give us a little show and let's see what you have. how can we take more advantage of what we're already paying for? If you just spend a little bit of time talking to them, they'll be very happy to talk to you. As you know, ask them app, I'm sure as well. You're happy to show them all the functionality you have and see what they're doing and give them best practices. So you've got a wealth of information and decades of experience in just the key vendors you're already paying for. Have them come in and help you understand how you could use them better.
That's really great. So much of the purpose of this whole program was to literally provide an accessible channel where anybody could come without a cost and see what's being built, what's being brought, and of course use that as a competitive analysis or really a rejuvenation of gosh, I'm not using this. So I really love what you're both saying. This has been really really insightful. I hope for all of you out there that if you have questions, these are my trusted resources. These are the people I go to when I have questions about what to do in industry. So I hope that you take advantage of them. What's the best way to stay in touch with you, Craig, if anybody wants to follow you or otherwise?
To stay in touch, well, you can follow me on X, Twitter at Craig Iskowitz, on LinkedIn, or you can listen to our podcast, Wealth Tech Today, on Apple Podcasts.
Cool. How about you, Kristen? How do people stay in touch?
Yeah, Oasis is where I hang out. So you can reach me on all platforms and including LinkedIn, or hit up my website. Offer free calls to anybody. Happy to listen to see how we can help.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much for both of you and what you do in the industry. We appreciate that. And let's see, I'm going to wrap up this session now and get us to the next stage. So what do we have to do still yet today? A lot of stuff. You have a lot of demos to see, whether you see them live or you're going to see them in repeat. Let's just share my screen and I'll walk you through what we're going to do next. Allison is going to be taking over and running, as she always does, our community program for the FinTech demos. See some companies here that are actually doing some really new stuff. I know there's going to be a couple of reveals. You'll see even there the company Precise FP that Kristen mentioned was actually going to be revealing also, as well as some other really great companies. Then we're going to go into our keynote panel number 2, which was a really big idea. And I'm really glad that these players played full out. Our board member, Cheryl Nash, is going to be interviewing Dave Butler, Michael Kim, and Michael Lane. Now, collectively, these gentlemen are overseeing organizations managing trillions of assets for financial advisors between dimensional funds, AssetMark, and SEI. So you probably worked with this or run into any of these companies. What are they doing to help elevate advice for all of us that are delivering it in the field? I think it's going to be really interesting to see with all of this tech innovation, how they're going to keep up and how they're going to keep delivering value. So that's going to be the question to listen for there. Then we're going to finish with some of our newest entrants into AdviceTech.LIVE. These are guys building the AI tools, some of the stuff we've never even seen. So they've basically either come around in the last 12 months and bring really, really new game-changing functionality. You're not going to want to miss this. And again, please remember that you definitely want to vote in app. So when you're looking at their session, go to the tab where the polls were, and you actually vote for who's really showing up in a great way and really going to change the industry. So we want that because we're going to do the awards at the very end of this program, and we'll distribute them. Also, if you're not getting engaged with the platform and reaching out to people and going to sessions and visiting booths, you're not getting credit for the awards that we're going to actually give at the end of this program, which are pretty pricey, and we're excited to give them to you. We didn't want some, garbage swag. Or swag, I should say. I always say that wrong for some reason. That's like the New York in me is coming out. And then lastly, of course, visit our sponsors. We have a lot of booths in there. They've got videos, they've got all kinds of different offers if you want to take advantage of them. And that's really what we're hoping that you take advantage of. With that, let me pass the baton on to Allison. And so let's get ready for the next session. Thank you again, Craig and Kristen, for what you do. And of course, to all of you participating, we look forward to getting involved with you in the community. Cheers.